Hello, Lone Star Drift audience. This is Chris Finch, and you might remember some of his Vapetasia stuff on the side of Forrest Wang's car, and he's here on Drift Week with us right now. He's driving a Z06 on this trip. He's ripping around track, having a blast. I mean, he's living the whole like theme of Drift Week, which is has a car, driving it on the street, drifting day after day after day, doing all this cool stuff. But that's not why we're here to talk to him right now. I want to hear all about stories about him being involved as a sponsor within the sport, putting a lot of money and time and effort and passion into it, what he got out of it, how it went, just kind of things like that, because it's an interesting story. And he told me this over the phone a little while back, and I want to hear it and kind of like relay it to you guys. His story about how the whole thing went down, because you can tell me how long it went, what happened, just anything you want. You go. Absolutely. He talks so well, I don't need to be. And Brandon Wicknick is driving a screechy power steering pump thing up this giant mansion parking lot.
I want to type that.
Yeah, all right, go.
All right, for sure. Actually, I had started in, god damn. Oh, he's driving it up here. What are you doing?
Keep going.
Anyway, yeah, I believe it was, man, I don't have my dates down, but I actually started by sponsoring Matt Field. So I believe it was 2016.
Do you want to explain what Vapetasia is super fast first?
Absolutely. So Vapetasia, we manufacture liquids for electronic cigarettes. It's an alternative to combustible tobacco cigarettes. So I started that in about 2012. I started a company in my living room with pretty much nothing. Just started making juice, started making different flavors and learning all about it, getting involved in the industry, and it just kind of went from there. I just worked and kept rolling the dice and building and until eventually, you know, Vapetasia became a very large name in the industry. This fucking guy's... I'll even preface that. I mean, you know, obviously I had started drifting in probably about 2001-ish, 2000. My very first car I saved up for was a S14. And I had started drifting. I had my own shop for years. And it was every week, you know, every weekend or month or whenever there was drift events, whatever I could go to, I was all about it. And eventually I just gotten burnt out. And, you know, it just wasn't fun to me anymore to work on my own vehicle. And I was struggling. And I felt like I wanted to become more financially sound. So I decided to focus more on business things, you know. And shortly after the economy had tanked and I was living I moved back to Las Vegas and I was just kind of starting over. And I was working a job as a dealer in a casino, just getting by day to day, just looking for like that next thing. And then that's when I had stumbled upon vaping and electronic cigarettes. It was a new thing and it helped me quit smoking cigarettes. So I became very passionate about it, helping people, the stories people were giving me, and I just went to work. And eventually we had scaled to, you know, become a fairly large presence in the United States and around the world. And I always wanted to kind of get back to drifting, but I was so busy just still building and wanting more. So to kind of bring myself closer to what I loved and what I was passionate about, I decided to sponsor Matt Field. Sponsoring drifting was a great outlet for me. It gave me a reason to go to every FD event. We set up booths, tents, and handed out product to anybody that was there, that was interested in quitting smoking or vaping or already was. We worked a lot with Matt Field through that time. We sponsored him for 2 years. It was a great experience. At the time, you know, it still is. Matt was one of my favorite drivers. I thought he was very aggressive. And I just kind of loved everything that he stood for. So after that 2 years was up, I had an opportunity where Forrest Wang, who's actually a really good friend of mine, was coming back to Formula Drift. So I had wound up getting involved in his program. I was able to help him throughout the process, you know, with dealing with sponsors and things like that. Another good friend of mine, Nick Dizon, also jumped on board, and I was able to not just kind of sponsor a driver, but be a little bit more involved in the whole process, which was a nice break from the day-to-day grind that I was doing. So it was a very, you know, special time, and it was a blast. But unfortunately, about halfway through the season, We had already been deemed a tobacco product, even though there's no tobacco in the product. It's kind of a weird thing that involves a lot of money and companies that have more money than I do probably. And we were deemed a tobacco product. So under that rule, I was basically kind of shut down. I was told by the FDA that I could no longer participate in what we were doing because as a tobacco product, it would be illegal for me to sponsor a professional athlete, which Forrest Wang was. We had a lot of different things going on. We had an entire motorsports division. I had brought a good friend of mine out from California, and we had started a new shop and started focusing on building drift cars and things like that for myself and potentially for other drivers for our own team. So we were pretty deep into drifting at that point, wanting to get involved when we were kind of told that we would no longer be able to pursue that, which was pretty unfortunate. Some of that, which, obviously, Aaron, that led into Drift Week, right? I guess what my option was. I don't know if you want me to lead and go into that now.
You want me to stand in here and help you out for a minute?
Yeah,
Make you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to go into the whole car concept and everything. But
I love it. So what I was just going to say real quickly is one of the things that I did not know about you was the future plans that you had within drifting with Formula D. You'd already bought these cars and all these things. Like, I find out that there's these project cars sitting around waiting to be finished. You have parts and stuff waiting to go in them. You have all these things going on, and they sit on the burner for years sometimes and not get finished, and no one knows about it. So do you want to tell us about
Absolutely.
What you had planned for us to drive, which none of us knew about?
Yeah.
What these cars were going to go into Formula D. I think that's so cool. That's a great topic that would
100%, absolutely.
I have so many questions. Did Forrest even want to drive them? Was he excited about something that wasn't S chassis? We've never seen him in anything that wasn't S chassis. That'd be a great
100%
thumbnail, whatever. Guess what he was going to drive?
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
So the 2 Series BMW is actually the chassis that I had purchased. I had discussed briefly with Forrest, and throughout working with Forrest, I had acknowledged a few kind of things about just being in drifting and the importance of obviously generating revenue through sponsorships and things like that. And one of the things through, obviously when I'm talking to these sponsors, I'm trying to figure out when I'm negotiating on what we're going to do this year, but I'm also figuring out what we're going to do next year, right? I want to make sure that we have a future, and that whatever we generate this year, we could generate more, build a better program, come back stronger, perform better. And one of the things was having a car and the importance of having a vehicle that was still in production or at least relatively new. And this was something that was shared across several sponsors. One thing, one of the sponsors that told me was just look, I have a huge presence in Middle America, these guys don't know anything about drifting or anything like that. And, it was a tire sponsor. You go into Discount Tire to get my tires, and I put up a poster or a sign in that store. They have to know what the cars, they have to understand that the cars have to relate to the car. And if it's 1997 Nissan 240 SX or whatever, it's just kind of too far from that, right? So they're looking for more modern cars. And that's what they wanted. So we had to find something that was in production. And when I had talked to Forrest about it, it was a BMW. That was what felt the most attractive in terms of speaking, what was already out there, discussing with the guys with WiseFab, things like that, of what is performing well. And I think his initial concept was the 1 Series that he was interested in. And I thought it looked a little ridiculous. I wasn't
big buggy eyelids.
Cosmetically, I was not quite there, right? So I was like, I said, look. So I started doing, some research and stuff like that, and I found the 2 Series BMW, and as I did more research, why BMW had even developed it for their race program and things like that. Some of the elements and things that were available, parts availability, stuff like that, it seemed like a better choice for race car stuff as opposed to drifting stuff. And at the time, WiseFab had just kind of released a kit, and then HGK kind of started building theirs. So I was like, okay, this is this is a good situation. This is going to be a good car, right? It's going to get enough support where we could make this work. And I went out and I sourced a couple of them, and they just kind of sat.
When you say source, you mean you bought 2 cars?
Yeah, I bought 2 cars.
And they exist, and they're ready to be built into drift cars with that purpose?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
So they were both actually, I bought them from Copart. So they were both slightly erect. So
Okay.
actually my girls, one had...
My opinion of you is slightly dropping. I thought you were so baller, you just rolled into the dealership, grabbed brand new ones, rolled them out, and you're like, let's build these babies.
Yeah, I definitely think like you get to a point where you
when
have
I
enough
think
money where you can
Copart, I
just-
think me, not you.
Maybe that's why I have buddies, because I don't like throwing it in the trash. But maybe not. I don't know.
You're here on Drift Weekend at
Fuck,
06.
this is Jesus Christ. Yeah, we'll get into that. That's a
Another
whole nother fucking topic. Yeah. So I had this concept, and we were going to build these cars and start figuring them out. We had nothing set in stone. We didn't really know what was going to happen, but it was a direction that we wanted to go. And then I felt like if I could provide Forrest like kind of the experience he was looking for, which was kind of show up and drive, that he was interested in, that like it would be a good situation for him, and then I could have some freedom to start really pushing sponsors, content, media, and start investing money into not just Forrest, but potentially other drivers and things like that. And I saw an opportunity, where like obviously like I have other businesses and things like that, and I think that's where like I kind of overanalyze everything and I just overthink everything, and I just can't stop. My mind doesn't shut down. So I'm like, okay, we could start a race program, we do this, and I'm like, well, how do I make it sustainable? Because obviously I don't like just throwing money down a drain, right? So I was like, okay, I could have my logo on cars and then not really have it cost me anything, because we could generate the money from sponsors, and it would be like a kind of like an interesting thing where I could be more deeply ingrained, because I was just having so much fun. It genuinely was, and I think a big part of it was like working with friends, Forrest, obviously I've known Forrest since like I was at the very first drift event he was when he came to the United States, so, and that's where we had met. We just go so far back, and so much history, and like having guys like Nick Dizon, who runs Vegas Drift, there with us, and everybody, even the guys on the team, Jeff, Garrett, like everybody, we were just became, we already are known each other for a while, so we were already friends, but like obviously like through that, we became quite close, and it was just a fun experience. I love racing. I love everything about it.
Huge shout out to all the sponsors of Drift Week, starting with BC Racing Custom Coilovers, who support more grassroots and professional drifters than any other coilover company. Thank you to WhatMonstersDo.com for supporting all of our content for so long, including our Japanese content. Use the discount code EBISU on their website for a discount. Thank you to NK Wheels. They make so much cool stuff, all the way from my drift wheels all the way up to F1 wheels. Thank you to ECU Master for supporting grassroots guys all the way up to the best driver in the world, James Dean. Thank you to Y-Play Imports. If you need a rad right-hand drive car from Japan, hit up Trenton at Y-Play Imports and get them before the prices get too high. And thank you to Drift HQ for bringing in that support vehicle. And congratulations on everything that you've been doing this year, Drift HQ. You are killing it.
Obviously like building cars myself and kind of having to fix them, which obviously I did on this trip, and I found the motivation again, which was the beauty of Drift Week. But I still was kind of like not sure where I would fit back into drifting, It's kind of a conversation that I had with, I've had several times with my buddy Nikolai, that's with me, and a couple other people leading up to Drift Week. Was my life was drifting, Since I was probably about 17 years old, my life was drifting. That was it. Everything drifting. I did everything. I worked for drifting, saved money, whatever I could do. Everything was to drift. And when I stepped away and I said I need to focus on myself and my career, and I need to do something with myself, and then come back to drifting when I could do it more comfortably. Thing is over that period of time, like life had changed vastly. Nothing is the same. I have 2 kids now. They're incredible. My fiance, she's beautiful. She's amazing. My life is so different. And then I like look back at things like, is that me anymore? Like my life is drifting. My life isn't drifting anymore. It's who I was. But like, am I still that person? Can I go back to that? Because it's time away from my family, things like that. Like where does this fit in my life? So it's kind of cool where like, for me, like, I guess it's kind of like a justification to be able to say like I'm doing it for work, and like leading into like, obviously now, like, I have a machine shop and I build engines, like I'm doing these things for work. I'm being around cars for work by choice, and being around drift cars and things like that. So it's like kind of justifiable to me. But like as a driver, could I ever be that again? And that's what like kind of Drift Week coming out here was for me, was like to figure that out, is that who I am still, and like I said, or do I value like different aspects of it? Like running Forrest program was a different side of drifting that I actually really enjoyed, being on that side rather than being behind the wheel. So it's just like a different perspective of it, like a different angle of it that was cool. And like I said, for drifting being such a big part of my life, having those different angles and perspectives, it's just been a blessing. It's been an experience, you know, nothing short of it, you know.
Is drifting still a part of your life?
Oh, 100%. Like, and like I said, I've kept it like through sponsoring drifting and having cars and stuff like that. I've kept it as a part of my life. But I guess the question would be, was driving, you know, like physically being behind the wheel, like where does that fit into my life? You know, I guess is the question, right?
Does that still fit into your life? You've probably just done more drifting than you've done in years doing this.
Yeah, you know, I think what it is, you know, everything is motivation. You know, like what do you want to do? Like, and obviously, like. It maybe something in a lot of aspects things are a little bit different for me because, you know, I'm financially in a situation where I could do things like Drift Week or whatever. Like, I can afford to do these things, and it's finding the motivation. You know, like I said, I told you already that, you know, this is the first time in 16, 17 years I've enjoyed turning a wrench on my own car. You know what I'm saying? Like where I was actually like excited, like I got pure enjoyment. Like I didn't have that since I first started drifting. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time that feeling has ever come back to me. Did I turn as many laps as I could have out there? No. I definitely could have turned a whole hell of a lot more laps. But
your car did though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Y'all double drove your car.
Yeah. Well, like my buddy Nikolai was like super. He's in love with the car. The car's incredible, by the way. I mean, but you know, like there was just too many aspects of it I was enjoying. I was enjoying fixing the car, changing the tires, talking to the person at the pit, bumming a tool, helping someone else out. We had put a cylinder head together for a guy that drove today that was stuck, you know, and had it delivered out here and helped him get, like, I'm enjoying those aspects of it, like, equally as much. So I do still think that I found that being on the other side of drifting is quite enjoyable to me, but I do still love driving.
Do you think 2001 Chris could imagine what you were doing here today, driving a C6 Z06?
No.
On some adventure where it's 2 weeks of nonstop drifting. We're in the middle of this like weirdo cult mansion in the hills of California. Like this whole experience is surreal. Like
mansion's definitely
could you ever
weird.
get all these drift cars together like this at a normal drift event? I mean, like
this is crazy.
We have world class like 2JZ S14 comp car thing next to Z06, next to 350Z, next to, you know, like supercharged M3, F80 M3s. You like, you know, E46 M3, like so many different crazy cars.
And there's just such a variety. And to be honest with you,
drifting has changed.
The F80 is incredible. Like I think some of these cars, like the 350Zs and things like that, these guys are shredding so hard, man, on such little power, and they're just fucking killing it. And I love it, you know, because it kind of reminds me more of kind of what I was used to, you know what I'm saying? Like I kind of skipped a lot, you know, like my car when I stopped drifting was an S13 coupe, and it had about, well, it did have like over 400 horsepower when I stopped, but you know, for the most part of my drifting it was about 300 horsepower. We ran S14 LCAs, washers in the tie rods, and that's how we got like more angle out of a car, you know, and you had to drive your car, you know, like, and it was fun, man, and just, you're just on the gas all the time. And this thing, we try to be on the gas all the time, but you know, there's definitely, when you have this much power, there's limitations.
You went a little overboard with a 600 wheel Z06.
Obviously, given the circumstances, you know, the 2 Series was, it's an amazing, it looks incredible, man. Everything seemed like it was going so well until it didn't. You know, just it's just kind of like an untested platform in the sense where we didn't finish tearing the car down. We left the engine and the interior and things like that. We put it back together, and we used WiseFab and things like that on a factory, utilizing as many factory things as possible, so that way it has as many kind of amenities as possible, right? Like it's got power bucket seats, so I could like roll the seat back and forth, you know, like air conditioning. I wanted to have every little factory thing working, you know. But then that next leads to problems, right? Where
before we get to that, because that'll be in the next video, I want to ask you what your plans were for those cars for the FD program. So if Forrest was going to drive them, I'd assume they're going to be 2JZ?
Yeah, absolutely. There was no reason to kind of stray away from that.
Okay. So you're going to run like 1,000 horsepower, 2 Series BMWs, like crazy body kits and stuff?
Really, you know, we didn't get that far, unfortunately. So we had started the concept of it. We had required the cars, and we were going to start building them. And kind of, it was more of a thing where I was kind of doing it on my own, you know. I'm sure Forrest would have helped me at some point had we made it that far along. But we were kind of still in the planning stages. Like, get the cars, let's get them here, and let's start planning what we're going to be doing with them, and building them, right? And then we'll build them to FD spec and things like that, make sure a taller individual can sit in them, things like that. And then that's when really, because like I said, it wasn't like something that me and Forrest had sat down and said, you know, like, okay, we're doing this next year, because we weren't even sure with the new WiseFab kit coming out, things like that. I don't want to put too much pressure on the situation. He has his own vehicle, he has his S15, it's incredible. There's no reason to change that. But he did want to push forward, so I said, okay, like, you do want to progress, and you do understand the importance of being able to generate more revenue, things like that, that the next progression could be BMW. So let's build this car, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's weird. Like, sometimes when you get in these situations, you create expectations, things get tough, and we're friends. You know, so it was made more sense for me to just, I wanted to build the cars, so I was going to buy the cars and I was going to build the cars, and then we were going to go out and we were going to test and see how we felt about it, right? Either way, like, I was willing to make that commitment because I would want the car for myself, because like I said, I wanted to get back into drifting and stuff too, and I just like building cars, man. I have a lot of cars. Like, it's,
How many?
I don't know. There's a lot. I've got everything from like 13s, 14s, 15. I've got 4 Corvettes. I've got like classics, like old Impalas. I got a couple C10 pickups, like 72 C10 pickups. I just see shit I like, and I just
buy it.
It's a problem. They're everywhere.
I'm gonna start messaging you on Facebook like, I have this Hummer H1 I need to get rid of.
I'm trying to stop. I'm really, really, really trying hard to stop. It's
You can't.
very difficult.
Doesn't help.
That part of me I've not been able to get away from. But yeah, so like I said, with Forrest, it didn't make it that far, unfortunately, you know. This was in the middle of the season, so the season wasn't even done, right? So I was just seeing, like, what body panels can we get, like, what am I going to have to make, things like that. And obviously I spent a lot of time with Nick Dizon during that time, planning, like, who we were going to try to build relationships with, like, or who we already had relationships with, like, can we go to 2F Performance and have LFCs made for this car? Like, what would that cost me? And that's where we started kind of like going and kind of trying to put the pieces together to, like, so we could just start attacking. So we could just start figuring out where's the car going to go first, where's it going to go second. You know, obviously Forrest does incredible fab work. We want him to do some of the chassis work, roll cage, things like that. So it was just a lot of, like, in the planning phase, so that we could attack it. We still had a little bit of window of time because I think at the time we weren't even halfway through the season. So, but that was really like, that was the plan. And like I said, it was, you know, and obviously like you, like I was like, do you want to drive a BMW? And I was kind of like, I love BMWs. I've always loved BMWs. Like, this is fucking cool, dude. And I'm like, you know, Force in a BMW would be an incredible.
It'd be very interesting and different. Might break the brain, you know, like he's built such a brand around that.
Yeah, I feel like he has, but also, like, it's just stylish cars, I think, and his driving, you know, just kind of speaks for itself. And you know, the 2JZ power plant, having turbocharged cars in FD. So I think all of that kind of, I think there's other elements to him where he could, you know, obviously when you drive at that level, you could jump at anything and perform, you know. I mean, sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve, you know, but, like, I mean, look at Matt Field. I mean, dude was killing it, jumped in a Corvette. I think what his first year was.
Yeah, but Corvettes are better than 240s.
I mean, yeah, I guess, I don't know.
If you're trying to, like, be fast and grippy and all that stuff, that is a hell of a lot of car to start off in.
I'm sure there's a learning curve to it, but you adapt, and look at him now. He's fucking killing it. It's ridiculous, you know, so.
Right. My last question. As a company, I'm always curious if it's worthwhile to put so many, how do you say, like, so much capital, I guess you could say, so many resources from your company, Vapetasia, into drifting. Was it financially worthwhile? I know that things happened and cut it short, but was it worthwhile as a company?
I mean,
financially, not passionately.
There's a lot of ways to look at how the money is spent and whether it was worth it. When you do things like marketing, there's it's impossible to create like a measuring stick, right? Like it's not like you're on Google and you're doing a paid advertisement and you could see how many clicks come through and how many people purchase, and there's a measuring stick. This is what it costs me to acquire a customer, right? In the vape industry, we're not allowed to do any kind of advertising, marketing. Our hands are tied behind our backs because we are in the tobacco industry. So I had to do things, bootstrap, just kind of guerrilla marketing anywhere I could. A lot of people spent tons of money, and I have too, going just to trade shows and promoting there. But you're promoting amongst 300, 400, 500, 600 other companies at the same place at the same time. So we always wanted to carve our own path and find things. And because we also wanted to enjoy the marketing we did because it made it a lot less like work. So 100%, you go to some of these venues and there's, 25,000 people in attendance. And you know what the thing is from that point on, there was several other companies. Ryan Literal had an e-liquid sponsor. Other companies saw what I was doing and came in and put money into the sport to spread the word. But like I said, you go into some of these venues, the percentage of people. I don't know. Obviously, you look around these events, you look around the paddock there. How many people have a vape in their hands? The percentage, the demographic is very relatable. So I 100%, I definitely think it was worth it. I think it would, and I would still be involved in it if it weren't for that. I don't think I would have stopped. Obviously there's a lot of weird things kind of going on in the vape industry right now with the Food and Drug Administration and things like that. So it's definitely a little bit of a weird time right now in particular, but 100%, like I said, it's impossible to like actually measure, what the return was from the investment. And obviously when I go to places like we went to any Formula Drift event, we never sold anything. We just gave it away to people, as long as they could prove to us, that they vaped, they were of age, whatever, we just wanted to kind of get our name out there. And like I said, it was a lot of fun, and 100% I would do it again. And I think it was a sound investment. We were even talking, possibly like if I could stay in it, we wanted to sponsor Formula Drift as a series. There's a lot of different ways you could market. Like I said, the thing is you got to throw shit at the wall till something sticks, right? And that's the name of the game, right? It doesn't matter what happens, you fail, whatever, right? You just have to put a lot of irons in the fire. Fortunately, we became large enough that the irons we're putting in the fire were pretty big, So like where it was the expense of a drift car here, that was crazy, but I've also gone to trade shows that were 2-3 days long and spent even more money in that period than I spent in a full year on Formula Drift, So like there's a lot of different ways to spend money.
And those are boring.
There's they could get interesting, but yeah, they're mostly probably the things that go down afterwards, they get pretty fucking crazy.
I was gonna say SEMA is probably not as much fun as the parties for a lot of people.
So there's SEMA parties, some of the vape parties, man, they're
intense.
There's a lot of people that are doing well for themselves, just say that are fairly young. Like I said, I'll never know for sure whether I turn a profit off it, but that's the problem with the type of marketing we have to do is we just have to be people to recognize our brand. And a lot of people recognize this. I get tagged and stuff, just like people playing like Forza and like they design their car to look like Forest. It's got a big vape, still to this day. Like RC car bodies and like, look, it's got a Vapetasia logo on it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like still. Because of Forrest and who he is,
Yeah.
So like having someone as iconic as Forrest as a partner is huge, because the what he puts out, his car design and things like that, they're so timeless. They're not cookie cutter, they're not so sponsor focal. Like the design, they're not bland or dry. I think the beauty in that is those whatever he creates that year, the look or whatever, tends to live on. And I feel like they're more timeless, whereas, and not saying like I don't like the look of some of these cars, or like chrome graphics. We've even kind of like got into this in the beginning where I was like, if you noticed when I was involved, the graphics weren't chrome. Because the problem is he's coming into a turn and media gets a picture, glare hits my logo, washes it out, and I've like got this incredible picture that's circulating around the internet. and you can't even make my logo out. And I'm like, I don't like that. But like, that's not him though. And I think that like, through that, like, I think I learned what I want and what is always best isn't always best, right? Sometimes you think you know what's best, but that was a humbling experience because I feel like that car would have been more impactful had it had a little bit more of his style rather than me caring about visibility, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize like how that was going to carry on. And I was very wrong in that, where like that flashiness, like I said, there's pros and cons to everything, and I didn't weigh the pros. Because like I said, I didn't realize that 3 years later, people would still be tagging Vapetasia in like RC car bodies. And like I said, I didn't realize it wouldn't be carrying on. These are people that don't even vape, you know what I'm saying? They just are replicating whatever he had, you know? And how iconic just those looks of his cars would be. And like I said, I was very wrong in that sense. But 100%, like I said, it was a great experience. And like I said, I would still be involved, and it was worth every penny. And like I said, I wish I could have gone on and started working with Formula Drift directly and things like that. But like I said, it's just not the way things worked out, unfortunately.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here
100%.
at Drift Week. Thank you so much for sharing this adventure and your passion with us and everything. Thank you for being a part of like Drift Week, not Drift Week, but like drifting in general that's influential. And you need to go to Japan with us sometime and go do Ebisu.
100%. I'm in.
You need to do that before it's over, but also we can't go yet until
Before
everything
what's
else
over?
is over. Oh, because like I think we're in a golden age of drifting and all these things, and like the track is getting changed and Minami's coming down, and a lot of people will never get to drive Minami now. You know, like that was an iconic thing that you saw decades ago, and I wish I could share all these experiences with everybody before it's too late. Okay, thank you, YouTube audience. Bam.
That's it.
Bye. All right.